Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Pieces. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. Excuse my voice. I'm dealing with the bug that's going around, or at least one of the many bugs that's going around. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I sound like several miles of bad road here, but I'm doing my best for you. This is a great episode that I've got lined up for you today, and this is an interview we did with Mr. Donald Raymond Schmitt, who is probably one of the premier researchers into the whole Roswell incident. And I was blown away when we interviewed Donald. And I know that if you haven't seen him interviewed, you should pay attention. This is an incredible interview full of facts and sequences of events that absolutely blow the whole cover up out of the water. And this one particularly is the foreman Brazil finding the debris field and all the hijinks that follows that. So check it out. I know you're going to love it.
Well, the very first night after Brazil, the foreman, discovers this huge debris field, he goes back with his pickup truck, and there was a larger piece, about 10 foot in diameter, that he dragged behind the pickup truck. And he took 3 miles to the north, and he stored in a livestock shed that was still there till about 15 years ago. And in fact, even in the press release that went out on Tuesday, July 8th, that the Roswell Army Airfield issued, it says that the rancher stored the disc in a livestock shed until it was retrieved by the Army. Okay, so consistent.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't acknowledge the fact there was a whole debris field still out there that took 50 to 60 troops 3 full days to clean up, to gather up. There were 3 specific sites all connected to the one event. There's a debris field. Mid-air explosion. It rains debris that covers that area almost a full mile long. About 2.5 miles southeast of the debris field, atop a bluff, which we call the D. Proctor site, based on one of the principal witnesses to the location, Brazil found something else.
Okay.
And that was the terminology that was used. He found something else. Well, he and a number of children, including his son, Vernon, and Timothy D. Proctor, and Sidney Jack Wright, and one of the Eddington sisters. So we've been able to determine they found 2 bodies that either had been drawn out by the percussion of the explosion or the decompression, or the fact that another 25 miles from there, east-southeast along the same trajectory route, about 35 miles north of Roswell, there was a pod, a capsule, about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, egg-shaped, described by numerous witnesses, including the sheriff, a fire crew chief, and numerous military at the site. Egg-shaped, about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, 2 more bodies, and a survivor. One lone survivor. So 3 distinct sites: debris field, secondary body site, and an impact site. All part of one event. And witnesses to all 3 of these specific locations.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's all the corroboration of all of these things compiled. And then, it's such an insult to hear, well, it was a balloon.
And how does a balloon create 3 separate crash sites?
Yeah.
And a gouge, for that matter.
Right.
No. Again, it does not compute.
Right.
It does not compute in the slightest.
Right.
And there is not a single witness, not one, who can place a balloon device or anything else conventional at the debris field, the secondary body site, or the impact site.
Wow.
Not
Initially, there were several people holding pieces, and you had mentioned how they hid them so carefully and so completely. But every one of those was eventually recovered by the military. Is that right?
they made such an extreme effort in not only silencing the witnesses involved, most specifically the civilians, but also searching, ransacking houses, sheds, slitting open bags of feed, tipping over water tanks,
Jeez.
pulling up floorboards, pulling out drawers and flipping over bed mattresses, all in an attempt to find every last piece of physical evidence. Now, the military has absolutely no authority over civilians unless martial law is declared.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if they come to your house with rifles drawn, we all know what we can tell them because they are trespassing. They have absolutely no authority against civilians. And yet, that's exactly what they did.
Man.
And the worst example would be poor Mac Brazel himself. Yep. He was not only abducted by the Roswell Army Airfield, so was the wire recording where he discussed and described at length the bodies that he discovered a couple miles from the debris field. So much for First Amendment rights, because it was at the time in the possession of the majority owner of radio station KGFL, Walt Whitmore Sr. So much for depriving him of, the First Amendment rights that I like to believe we have intact today.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, now just imagine if you're Mac Brazel, and then after you're released by the military, you're able to go back to your ranch and back to your duties as the foreman on that ranch, and you're a changed man. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to hear about it. Even your own family, you tell them it's better you don't ever know about it. It'll ruin your lives. And then it eventually comes out that they kept me up all hours of the night. They deprived me of food and water. Mm-hmm. They asked me the same questions over and over again until I couldn't take it any longer. Mm-hmm. And then the indignity, the embarrassment when I was subjected to a full Army physical and a full body cavity search.
Oh, geez.
Looking for pieces of a weather balloon? Yeah. Are we?
Yeah.
And, he's lying. He's lying. That's all the skeptics can say. He's lying. Mm-hmm. But the point is, why would you admit something like that in public?
Right.
Of all things. For the publicity? Oh, well, are you going to sue them? Well, there was no action taken. They did not even provide Brazel with due process. They didn't even allow him to call his own wife, call his boss. He's away from his duties as the foreman on the ranch. They didn't allow him to make a phone call.
Wow.
Again, over a weather balloon. So, these are all things that I step away and I keep thinking back. You place yourselves in their shoes, and then it keeps begging the bigger question. What were they so concerned about unless it was exactly what the eyewitnesses were reporting? Right. Something that extraordinary.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the Army field manual. Where's that chapter? Recovery of a spaceship. What do we do next? That type of thing. So they were going through the motions. They did what they had to do. They were following orders. Mm-hmm. And yet they treated the civilians in a manner that just, to this day, you look back and you finally come to the conclusion that I can't find anything else that matches this. I can't find a single example involving the recovery of a weather balloon device that they treated the participants in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't care. For example, when that F-117, that stealth fighter, crashed south of Holloman Air Force Base, close to the Texas state line, and the pilot was picked up hitchhiking back to Holloman Air Force Base. They later would claim that the aircraft actually crashed to the east, close to the Texas-New Mexican state line. So they diverted attention completely away from the area. They truly had something that was top secret. The materials, as far as the very stealth technology, is still classified top secret. And we looked into that, and we could not find, for all the civilians who were involved, a single example of where they were threatened, where they were intimidated, or especially where they were abducted,
right,
because they might have in their possession a piece of the aircraft.
Good point.
And so we looked into, when a Blackbird, an SR-71 crashed, and they came up with the explanation that it was a commercial, albeit zero passenger Republic airliner that crashed in Missouri, and in reality, it was a Blackbird back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And again, there were no witnesses that talked about any such tactics that were used to silence them at the time. But we keep coming back to Roswell. Why was this the exception? Mm-hmm. So it keeps pointing, it keeps coming back to something so high on the scale that they were forced to do all they could to ensure the fact that they had time to get some answers. Because, first of all, you don't know if this is a vanguard of an approaching invasion.
Right.
You don't know if it's something that's toxic to, the human race.
Sure.
Given, its origins, that type of thing. And so it's all you can do to contain it and make sure that you have some stall time, some time to come up with some rational solutions and then determine what's your next move, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So here we are 72 years later, and the government is now officially up to 4 explanations regarding this one event. 4 explanations.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Paranormal Portal Pieces. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you become notified every time we release a new one. And be sure to check out our main YouTube channel at youtube.com/paranormalportal, where you can check out the full-length versions of all of these interviews that you're enjoying the little pieces of here. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.